good evening, and welcome. I want to apologize for this late start, but technology and what have you always get in the way of smooth running, especially when you're not as proficient as you thought you are. Technology. So, despite that, we overcome. And I tell you, we have a nice panel this Sunday evening. In the journey so far, I said to a friend of mine last week that oftentimes when we discuss issues pertaining to Jamaica, we tend to lock into PMP, GLP construct. It's that conflict. And I said to the brethren, you know what? We need to have a Rastaman at the table. And that is where Bongo Jerry come in important, because Bongo Jerry is a Rastaman, one of the original Rastaman out of town. You can tell you more about that. One thing I'd say I know about Jerry. He does not worship Selassie as a god. And he always repeat that and point that out.
Yeah, that's not what Rastafari is about.
Right. So that is the panel we have assembled today, and the guests. This week we saw a number of things. We saw our Deputy Commissioner of Police coming out and telling the Jamaican people that them should not take things in their own hands. We also saw the beheading of a rapist, an alleged rapist in Porus. They can't find the body, but his head was placed in a bag. And on top of that, the Commissioner of Police released a report which said major crime in Jamaica is down. I don't know about you brothers, but my initial reaction when I saw that report was, at what cost? At what cost? And nobody know. So today I hope to explore that question with the brothers, and for me it's very important. And I say that because I've witnessed the police brutality over the years. And now the state of emergency, free and at what cost, brothers? I put the question to you, brothers, here with me. At what cost? How many young black youths died in order for the crime to this report be coming out? How many? Nobody knows. In this report, there's nothing about police shooting. And we know the police there. So, Mr. Rattigan, you're a law enforcement officer, former law enforcement officer, and still a member of the legal circle. What do you think? At what cost? You read the report?
Yeah, I've read the report. The report doesn't give me any. It doesn't give me any hope. In fact, it's just bleak news, because what they do is they try to comfort you with statistics to say the crime rate has gone down, when in truth and in fact we don't know, because of the lack of reporting or the accuracy of reporting. And then the other thing is, there are two aspects to the crime issue. One is the statistics. The other one is how people feel about crime, right? And if you ask anybody in Jamaica, no matter what them tell you, the crime rate, dipped by. If you ask anybody in Jamaica today, in fact, you don't even have to ask them, because Don Anderson did a poll, and the poll came out saying, I think it's like 47% declared that crime was the number one priority, not homelessness, not lack of housing, not corruption. Corruption, I think, was like number 4, right? Not unemployment or underemployment. It was crime. So no matter what they come with, you know, that is the millstone around their necks, and them can't escape from that. In fact, I tell you something. There's another report. Them tell you about report. There's a report that came out. I think it's July 7th, and Jamaica still has one of the highest crime rates at 44.7 per 100,000. One of the highest in the world. Even if you go to the war zones, they don't have 44.7 per 100,000. So I'm not comforted by the statistics, and people should not be comforted by the statistics. What they need to put out is they need to implement real policing strategies and measures, which they haven't, because they run out of ideas. When you have the police, when you have them trying to say, "Oh, we're going to bring back the home guard," you know, it's a sophisticated, euphemistic form of home guard. When they say we're going from a task force where you will have retired JDF, retired JCF, and certain citizens with gun permits. We'll have them so that they can protect neighborhoods and whatnot. That's nonsense. It's nonsense. It means that they have no crime plan. When they use states of emergency to address crime issues, when states of emergency were designed for three things: natural disaster, insurrection, and war, not for crime fighting. And when you see them come up with that, and they come up with all kinds of nonsense, and you look at the salaries that they're making, at least at the top level, and you look at the attrition rate, people leaving, it's hopeless, it's bleak, and we can only continue to pray for the people of Jamaica, because in my estimation it's going to get worse. That's my opening salvo.
Jerry, I pose that same question to you, Jerry. At what cost?
I left Jamaica 6 days ago for a little while. 6 days ago. I'm not as up to date as what I've known over the last 6 days as the previous 75 years. The reports that we are getting, it is not the press reporting these things. It is the Commissioner of Police and his spokespeople reporting these things. Is that so or not so?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not the finding of the media and the press and the public of Jamaica. I don't think it's the finding of Dan and Snyder. This is the findings of the police department, the Commissioner of Police and his spokespeople. They are campaigning right now for the approval of the Jamaican people. Just as the administration, the political directorate also is campaigning to the people of Jamaica to get a further mandate after them get a mandate of 5 years. 2 years ago, them get a further mandate of 5 years. They are now campaigning, preparing for the next, another mandate of 5 years, but campaigning most likely for a local government election. As I said, this is not the finding. The people of Jamaica find themselves under pressure. Same way, you know that the police force in Jamaica is not out there protecting the people of Jamaica from crime. If the police force was protecting the Jamaican people from crime, you would hear the reports of the protection of the Jamaican people from crime and the improved protection of Jamaican people from crime. The police force of Jamaica is taught and directed to regard the Jamaican population as the problem, not to protect the people of Jamaica. So it is not a police service. The police force was not organized to serve the Jamaican people 158 years ago. I think it's 158. 100 how long now? 65 and 35. 35 and 23, that is 58. 158 years ago, December, the police force was formed to make sure that the people of Jamaica don't agitate for justice It was formed 2 years after the attempt of Paul Bogle and his sisters and brothers to agitate for justice and protection. And that's what the force was formed for, and that's what it's still maintaining. Maintaining a watch on the Jamaican people, not protecting the Jamaican people. Let us examine whether this is true or not. That's my words for the time being.
Patrick, at what cost?
Yes. Before I even go ahead and give my answer to that, because part of my answer is in what Roger said, and part of it is in what Jerry said. Because the boat went directly at the answer. And that is that, first of all, the police can police themselves. Right? The police was not designed to be an organization that was going to account to us. So for that reason, we can't rely on the police accountability for anything. Right? And that is precisely to the point that Jerry made, right? Because what the police force was formed out of. It was not formed as a service organization to us. It was not formed to serve the people. Right? And that's a big part of the problem that we still face today. Right? And to Ratti's point in terms of, the police not being able to police themselves, it's really that you cannot even trust the information coming from the police. Because the fact of the matter is that the numbers that they put out, right, is already questionable. Right? When we look at the experience, the everyday experience of people on the ground, right? And the results of the poll is conducted among people, and it really reflects what people are thinking on the ground. And the fact of the matter is that, this report speaks for itself. It is not a report to us, right? It's a report more trying to deceive us, right? And it's not one that can be relied on. The cost to us is that it means that the ordinary man in the street, the ordinary person, continue to face the same crime and violence as a result of poor economic and political policies. And this is really, the heart of the matter, right? It is very costly, extremely costly, both in lives and in terms of, cost to us economically and socially and politically.
Last.
Yeah. The way I looked at it, I reject that report in the sense that, as Jerry said, it's a report to make people feel comfortable. People should not be feeling comfortable about the high rate of crime in the country. And what they're doing is trying to normalize, right, and let people accept whatever is happening. I looked at it from the point of view of what's the general direction of crime in the country. And it's up. It's going up. Whether or not, well, it's not going up in a straight line. You have some spikes and you have some falls, right? But the general direction of crime, especially murder, is up, right? What they are doing, when you have the spike and then you have the fall, they use the point of the fall to say that crime is improving in the country. So if crime rate went to, say, if 16 people were killed last month, right? And 8 killed this month, right? But we know that come next month, probably 16 more is killed. They use the 8 from the month that it was low to tell you that crime is on the decrease. But when you look at the statistics, because I looked at the statistics put out by the JCF, right? Because on their website, they have the general trend of crime from 1962, going through the 80s right up to today, right? And you can see that crime is not decreasing. Murders is not decreasing. It is increasing. But what happens is that it's not increasing at one steady pace. It goes up 1 month or part of 1 month, and it falls back a little bit sometimes, and then it goes up again and falls back. But the general direction of crime is up. So what they're trying to do is trying to get people to relax with the general increase in crime. And as Jerry said, it's about trying to get a mandate to make people feel comfortable that they are doing something when we know that they are not doing anything, right? Because crime is increasing in the country. Murder rate is increasing. I looked at a report that this CM commissioner put out in 2021, saying the very same thing for the first 6 months of 2021. He said that crime had decreased, blah, blah, blah. But what happened by the end of 2021? It was actually more than 2020, right? The first 6 months showed a little dip, but the following 6 months showed a major increase in the rate of crime. So the first 6 months that they used to make us feel comfortable did not bear out through the rest of the year. Also, I saw a report where for the first 23 days, while they were saying there was a drop in crime in 2021, for the first 23 days of 2022, more than 112 people were killed, right?
And that is 2021.
Huh?
That is 2021.
No, yeah, the report of things being good was 2021.
Okay.
But for the first 23 days of 2022,
yeah,
we had 112 people murdered.
I think it's
Right.
now 1,500.
Huh?
I think it is now 1,500 for the year.
It could be.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is that the statistics, they're just spinning statistics, right? Using the low point in the statistics to make us feel that this is the trend. But the trend for violent crime in Jamaica is going upwards, not downwards.
Jerry talk about the campaign. What about the timing? Coming right after the People's National Party poll. And
if I can just say one more thing and pertaining to
wait, let me finish. Let me finish, Patrick. What about the timing? Could this be a political move, the report?
Yeah, before I answer that question, if I just say one thing to the first question, and that is, and this is because just this past week I was looking at some reports on crime in the US, right? And it is put out by a non-profit organization, and of course, it goes into way more broader detail. And I'm not just thinking about detail in terms of statistics, but in terms of things that it cover. Because one of the things that this GSAF report doesn't cover, and of course, we wouldn't expect them to cover it, is crimes of the police against the citizenship, right? Police killings, actual police killings, and all of that. There's nothing speaking to that in this report. So I just wanted to add that piece as well, right? But to answer the question on the timing, the whole thing about the timing is, of course, is to use this report to political advantage, right? The political advantage of the ruling party, of course, because, of course, the commissioner is in cahoots with the prime minister himself. So my thing is that, again, it's all to bolster their public relations campaign, and that would be my answer to that question.
Rattigan, Jerry, what about the timing? Isn't it suspect?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something about the timing.
Yeah.
On the day before I left Jamaica, Monday gone, it was reported that the immigration department, the officers, male and female at the immigration department, was so angry that they was about to take collective action. You know what happened? Somebody entered the island, the citizen of another country entered the island, was found to be in breach and was being prevented from entering the island because of a breach of the border regulation. And the man started to behave boisterously and threaten the safety of the immigration officers who hold him up. And he was ordered to be taken from the airport to the police station in Montego Bay because of threatening behavior, which is a crime and an offense. And the Minister of National Security called immigration and ordered them to release the man and order the police of Jamaica. The immigration department is a part of the security establishment in Jamaica. The police force is another part of the establishment. The Minister of National Security, who happened to be one of the major MP in St. James, where the man entered the airport in St. James, called immigration and ordered them to reverse their decision, and call the police and order them to let go the man. Harris Chang, the Minister of National Security, Deputy Prime Minister, MP for the same Mobile era, ordered that. And when objection was made, him says it's not unusual for high official and minister appeal for the release of an offender. And him also says it's not unusual for high immigration officer also to appeal, say somebody like that must be released. When it turned out that an immigration officer called the police and asked for the release of the man, he was ordered by Harris Chang, the Minister of Security, to call the police and do so. He never do that. Harris Chang was talking as if both the political directorate and the immigration directorate have authority to do this and do it from time to time. Him never talk says him call the immigration head and order him to do it. And him never talk say is a relative of a retired politician, the man where the foreign national who was behaving that way. Him not mention none of that. And this is the conditions under which the security forces are operating. They are under orders. The firearm authorities also under orders to issue firearms for people who have criminal background and cloudy character. It's under them circumstances the police is being ordered to release. And it's most of the media in Jamaica. They take reports from the police or from various other authorities and report them as fact. When somebody is accused of a crime, the process of natural justice and the due process is that one thing is followed by a next thing. an offense when you offend another human being or you offend the community. That is what is a crime. You know? When you offend a human being to a certain level, or when you offend the whole community of human being, that is considered a crime. The first step in the due process is offense, estimation of offense. So, some authority or trained people are authorized to estimate the offense and see if it reach the level of crime. Charge for your crime. It must also be made public that you're charged with a crime. You're supposed to be able to contact representative, whether a lawyer or somebody else. You're charged for a crime. You are offered bail if you are considered to be eligible for bail. Them set dates for the due process of justice, and the due process of justice go on in public. Only under certain circumstance you must be examined and judged in camera. The word camera means secret. So normally your trial and your examination must go on in public. The members of the public must be able to witness it. And the members of the public must be free to come into the court or any other place. And the forces of law and order, enforcement, adjudication, correction services, all of these different establishments of the due process of justice must witness and ascertain whatever the verdict is, carry out the verdict, whether it is to let you go, whether it is to warn you, whether it is to confine you. All of these due processes supposed to go through. And when it don't suit a government like the government in Jamaica, the establishment, the administration, they intervene, they release people who have been apprehended for committing a crime and being a danger to the public, and them cover it over, they lie, they order other people what to do, they take over the administration of justice, they take over the administration of the police force. They don't just stick to policy. Them take over and harden these people all around. So much so that 4 Jamaican teenagers, girls, run a spectacular world record relay a few months ago. And when they finished run, they went to the authorities, the J3 authorities, a certain committee, a certain panel that's supposed to enforce drug testing. They themselves gave up themselves and said, please test us. This panel dismissed them and said, we're not testing you. And after that, they lost the world record accreditation because they were not tested after they asked to be tested. The political directorate is running an agency that's supposed to do drug testing independently. The political directorate is ordering what's supposed to be done. And the girls in Jamaica and the world lose a world record. And the political appointee who is head of that drug testing commission go free, continue in office, and they continuous profiling. And just like how the athletics is invaded by political interference, every branch of regulation of behavior in Jamaica is invaded by political interference. And when they're done, they give the report. And when they're done, most of the journalists don't investigate what happened and say it is alleged that a man or a woman did that. It is alleged. Them announcing on the airwave and in the paper that man raped a woman and was charged, and him addresses that and him name is that, and he next box a woman in her face, and they are reporting all these things as facts and not as allegations subject to examination and due process. So even the media is being corrupted as the security forces, the immigration, the J3s, and all institutions are being corrupted by the political administration and directorate. I talk enough. I have spoken enough for the time being. Have you been hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Need to sleep.
My
Probably
freeze up.
freeze up,
Okay.
and freeze up again.
Did you hear me or was my
Yes, we hear you all right, Gary.
Yeah,
you
we
all right.
hearing you. You're clear.
Maybe shall just go ahead then, Ratty, and respond.
Okay. Let me repeat for the people just joining us that despite the report put out by the police commissioner, there's a report that came out. It's called World of Statistics, and that's to do with the murder rate per 100,000. And Jamaica is 44.7 per 100,000. Based on what I'm looking at here, it's the highest in the world. Now,
You said 44 per 100,000?
44.7 per 100,000. Yeah. And just to give you context, South Africa, they have a high crime rate. It's 33.5. Afghanistan, 6.7. The USA is 6.8. Colombia, 22.6. Venezuela, 36.7. And those are the high ones. Because then you start going to the Far East and Europe. And they're like 0.5, 0.3, 0.2. So no matter what I'm telling them, another report that the crime's still high in Jamaica. No. The question we have to ask is, how do we fight crime in Jamaica? You cannot fight crime with...
Ratty, before I interrupt you, sorry to interrupt you rather, but what I wanted you to do as you give that context is say a little more in terms of that 44 per 100,000. Why is it that they measure it in that way? And to give it a little more context.
Right. The 100,000 measurement yardstick, that's something that's used globally when you start measuring crime. So every country, they do it per 100,000. And as you can tell in Jamaica, it's pretty high. If you have 44.7, that's almost 45 per 100,000. And then you look at some war zones, and they're way less than Jamaica's rate. So you have to ask yourself the question, what's going on in Jamaica, right? And everybody, you can go ahead and do any research. Everybody will tell you about the high crime rate in Jamaica, right? And you juxtapose that with the fact that the government has said that they've spent more money fighting crime than any other administration in Jamaica at any time in the history of Jamaica. And you said, well, what do we have to show for it? 44.7? I'm not impressed by the report that they put. And by the way, the report that they put out, they didn't put out the stats for 2020, 2021, 2022.
Because
2020.
Because
right?
they made the same, the first 6 months, they made the same statement about the crime rate is improving. And it turned out that by the end of the year, it was out of whack again. So,
but another point too, in terms of them being misleading, is the scope of the report that they put out, right? Going back all the way to 62, doesn't really give us a context of what's happening in the present day situation.
And that's exactly my point. If you can go all the way back to 62, why not put 2021 and 2022 in there?
Yes.
Yeah, those 2 years are absent.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And you have to ask yourself, and that's not by mistake. That's not by mistake.
That's why they spread it out.
That's by design.
There's another website. There's another website that gave the statistics for that year, 2021, 22, right?
Yeah.
And it was over 14,000.
1,400.
1,400.
Right. So they're not going to put that up there, because it shows the trajectory like Patrick was referring to, and you will ask. But here's another thing: you do not fight crime. And I've been let me take a step back. I've been told that this police commissioner is very big on charts and graphs and presentations and stuff like that. But he has no clue about fighting crime. You don't fight crime with charts. Charts can't go out there and fight crime for you. People and resources, right? People and resources. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about people and resources. They have something called the Consensus on Crime, which they came out with in 2020, which they said they would use this as a template to fight crime in Jamaica, reduce it, stranglehold the scourge of this beast. And they had a bunch of things that they put down for the JCF, and they call it, you will hear this term whenever you hear from the press, the press component of the JCF. You'll hear them talk about transformation. Just like I hear about prosperity when it comes to politics, when it comes to law enforcement, you'll hear transformation. Now, this transformation has been going on since 2016, and it has cost us to the tune of over $1 billion US. They brag about that, but they don't brag about the statistics. What has it provided for us? Now, just recently, just last week, they dismissed 52 scamming cases. The Chief Justice dismissed them. I know why he dismissed them. Dismissed them for the prosecution offering no evidence. No evidence. And what did the DPP said? It's instructive that I read to you the very last paragraph of her letter, right? She said, we hope, however, that in the near future, improvement is undertaken by the competent authorities in the JCF and at the level of the policymakers to ensure that the appropriate resources, both human and material, so that the cyber division is put in the best place to deal with their heavy workload while producing their report in a timely manner. This is critical. This is a criticism of the JCF and how it's how they distribute resources to deal with crime issues. No, remember, in February of 2021, I believe, 22, the Minister of National Security said that he had a budget of over $1 billion US that he was spending from fiscal year 2016-2017 to fiscal year 2022-2023. And you ask yourself, where is that money? Where are the resources? Because just last week, they received monies from the government of Japan to purchase 33 vehicles and 1 ambulance. And they took the cash. And you said to yourself, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. Didn't we disburse a large amount of money from the public coffers to purchase vehicles back in 2017, 2018, used vehicles, as a matter of fact? Where are those vehicles? They haven't taken possession of all of the vehicles yet, right? But they're still spending money. Now watch, 33 vehicles and 1 ambulance. They ask them to account for that later on, and you'll see what happens. Because what they should have done is said to the Japanese government, listen, your country, you make very good, durable vehicles. Why don't you make some vehicles for the police that will deal with the roads and the usage in Jamaica? Stiffer suspension, good cooling system, sturdy engine, so on and so forth. And have them, make it to specifications. They didn't do that. They took the cash. And what's instructive also about that is that at that PR event, you had the Japanese representative passing on the check to who? The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and the Ministry of Finance. Where was the Minister of National Security? Where was the police commissioner? Where? And hold on, before going further, hear them talk about, I'll give you something that they talk about. This is in 2020, right? They said for the police that they're going to expand microwave and radio networks communication network to March 2023, right? That was supposed to be done. It hasn't been done. It hasn't been done. They're gonna replace station diaries. That hasn't been done. They're gonna roll out a whole bunch of things I'm looking at here. Mobile command center and tablets in vehicles. That hasn't been done. And if you go through, all you need to do, don't take my word for it, people. Go and look at the consensus on crime. Look at the platform. Look at the transformation items that they put out there, and you'll find that they've missed most of the deadlines. And people are leaving in droves. They're saying that, oh, we're increasing the force and whatnot. They said by now they should have had 14,000. By last year or so, they should have had 14,000. What do they have now? They barely have 12,000. They're 2,000 short.
So, Rattigan, a
Yes,
question.
sir.
Have they said anything over the last 4 years about body cams for security?
Yes, they said that they were getting some body cams I believe they got some, but you have to question you have to question the durability of the cameras that they have, because I don't think they're working properly. And they don't have, talk about body cams. Let's talk about bulletproof vests. Talk about the policeman who got shot in the chest and died because
Right.
he didn't have a bulletproof vest assigned to him. And then also the bulletproof vests that I'm being told that they have now, they're substandard. They're substandard.
But another thing, Ratty, to what you just said is, and again, this is one of the ways you look at how they try to dupe the public, because you mentioned that what they got was a check, right?
Yeah.
So which is indicating that they actually got cash, right? Because the check is as good as cash. Now, it doesn't translate into that cash being spent for the purposes that is designated for, right? Because you mentioned that earlier there was an allocation for vehicles which them never take receipt of.
Correct.
Right? So again, going to the report does not speak to issues which the public need to know. It doesn't speak to issues which the public needs to know in terms of equipment, in terms of actual mismanagement in the police force itself, right? And the whole matter of how all of these things basically affect crime.
All right, tell me
Patrick.
something. Tell me something. Does not the government have a responsibility to check on its own performance? Because the government is not just the administration. The government is the administration along with the opposition. How is it that we're not getting this kind of scrutiny and supervision and following of the details by the opposition?
Well,
that would be reported by the
I
media.
can't. I can't answer that. I'm not a
Yeah.
member of the opposition or the government. I'm just an independent observer. But that's a very good question.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. In fact, I tell you what, I'll submit to you that you hear more criticism of the government on platforms like this than you hear from responsible people in Jamaica and
And
organizations.
that's because this is the only media. This is the only media, right? Speaking to the issues. Because the thing about it is that if the media is what is relied on for support. One of the reasons why social media has grown the way it has is because of the fact that social media is bringing the news to the people as it happens, bringing it to the people as they can see it, as they can identify with it, right? We don't. This is not something we have been accustomed to from the usual media over the years.
So the established media is embedded.
As always.
In other words, they are in the same encampment and on Bongo as the government.
As always.
Let me just take you back to one quick thing, right? The Communication Forensic and Cyber Crime Division of the JCF, right? Now you've heard the police commissioner and his communications arm. You've heard them talk about how advanced the cyber unit is and how much they're involved in doing things. Nonsense. We need to rubbish that. That's absolute poppycock. There's no truth in that. People are leaving. They don't have enough people to do the work. Because, and I've said before, when you train somebody at this level, that person is a target for the private sector and for other jurisdictions. And that's exactly what's happening. They train them and they move to Bermuda. They move to St. Lucia, or they go to Grace Kennedy, or they go to some private organization that really can use your skill set. Because why? Because they're not being paid adequately. Look at the conditions. I mean, it's a disgrace. The police commissioner and the minister of national security, these people they have unlimited gall to still go to work every day and do nothing. Though they should excuse themselves and let real professionals come in and take care of it. And by the way, there are real professionals in the JCF. I know them. There are people who can sit in the commissioner's chair tomorrow and do a far better job than he's doing. The man is look, you have to judge people by their performance, right? not only by their reputation, but by their performance, especially in a case like this. And when you have, and remember now, you know, when the Minister of Works might make a mistake, people are not necessarily going to die. When the Minister of National Security make a mistake, I'm telling you, people will die. When you don't have patrols, when you can't control you can't control your borders. And this is the man who was the national security advisor to the prime minister. This is the man who was responsible for making sure that the borders are adequately protected and safeguarded. And when they tell you that they have over 110 illegal points of entry coming into Jamaica, not to mention that the amount of guns and contraband coming in through the legal ports, right? And you say, what is this man doing? And then today he's the highest paid police commissioner in the history of the country. Tell me, where can you get a failing grade in private industry and get a raise? Where you get a failing grade, and you get a failing grade consistently, not 1 year. Look at the murder rate since he's been there. He got there
2018.
2018, right? Look at the murder rate since he got there, right? And he got an increase and an extension.
So he got there the last time just as it dipped. So since he has been there, it has only been going up, according to this chart.
No, the trend of crime, remember, you know,
Yes.
the trend of crime in Jamaica is up. It's not like they can point to say, boy,
but that small dip, that is just that small dip I'm talking about. That last dip that it made in round about 2014 thereabout, right? So between 2016, just between, according to this chart, right? Just around 2016 thereabout, right? That's when it made its last peak, and then it started to dip afterwards, right? So when he came there 2018, by the time he got there 2018, he got there when it had made that last decline, right, and started up again.
Let me I have a question. From all that have been said so far, it is obvious that we can't trust the police. We do not trust the police because Mr. Hylton is coming in now.
it's Mikey.
Hold on. Mr. Hylton is joining us. Mr. Hylton?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good. All right. Mr. Hylton is with us and he said he can give us an hour. And I'm going to suspend the discussion around the police thing so that we can speak to Mr. Hylton and the issues that was raised last week. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
man. That's good.
Because I think Mr. Hylton, Sundays are busy time for him from what I gather. You know, a lot of conferences and what have you. So if we can get him out, that would be good. Mr. Hylton, how are you doing, sir? How are you
I'm
doing?
good. Hello to everyone on the platform.
Respect, Mr. Hylton.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
One Jerry Small is also taking part, and he's not here. I'm not sure what's happening. But he should be joining us at some point.
Sure.
Mr. Hylton, I have here with me Las Crawford, who is from Maxwell and Greenwich Farm. You know, Patrick is from Waterhouse. Rattigan is from Waterhouse, and myself. Last week, we had a discussion. And discussion involved who's another co-host on this platform? Mr. Wesley Harris. You know, Mr. Wesley Harris is a developer. All right, let me just add him. Jerry.
Yeah, man.
While you're away, Mr. Hylton, join us. Alton Hylton.
Yeah, good afternoon to him.
Yes, Jerry.
And I'm just going to shift the discussion to some question that came up last week about Riverton and Colonel Mews. The person who suggests that we get you on the platform is not here with us today, Mr. Wesley Harris.
Okay.
He's a developer and he was involved with the development, building the houses and Riverton and all that stuff. And he said the condition down here is terrible for residents, largely because of your failure.
Really?
And I can speak as to what's happening because I know nothing. You know, when the issue came up last week, I said to the brothers, listen, from my experience with Mr. Hylton, he's someone you can go sit and talk with. So within that context, I am assuming that if there's problem at Riverton City, someone would be coming forward to you because you're the MP in that year alone. 15 years?
Not at all. From 207. From 207.
207. So you're there now.
It's about 14.
14.
About 14.
So look, the question is, what is going on with Riverton Mews? And I raised that because I saw an article where you were moving towards developing, doing something for residents in Colorado Mews. So I'm tying both of them together, Colorado Mews and Riverton Mews. What's really happening, sir?
Well, firstly, it would have been interesting if the person who raised the contractor, it would have been interesting if you were on the platform because I'd want to hear the specifics of what are his particular, what is the observation and why is that laid?
I can tell you one. That the entrance to Riverton Mews, it was clear under your administration, and now it's back to what it was. It's just garbage and dumpage, and people find it hard to get to access and egress from that property.
Yeah, well, look, let us face it. As he said, I cleaned the entrance when I came in. You have some determined individuals who, notwithstanding the effort, the discussion we've had, they are determined that they want to carry out their trading activities in scrap materials. Now, the National Works Agent, the National Solid Waste Authority, is responsible for cleaning and to keep clean the area. They have determined that that's not a job that they can do because it involves scrap metal, and these are valuable material that people are trading in. I have pointed out to them that this is really an enforcement issue, and unless the member of parliament is going to take it into his own hands and to exercise citizens arrest and arrest these individuals myself. The fact of the matter is that the enforcement agency, which is the National Solid Waste, have to do its jobs and to clean that area. I got them to clean the area in consultation with the very persons. And we said, look, we have to clean up the area, keep it clean. And they have persisted that they're carrying on a business. It appears as a business in the trading of the scrap metal. Now, what you have is a situation where if the member of parliament goes in there and try to enforce that, then he has to use extra legal measures to do that. Because the legal authority comprised, that is a solid waste, charged with doing that, has simply refused or simply has not carried that out, and no amount of exhortation from me and stress to enforce it. And then it create a situation where the member of parliament is the one that looks like he's harassing and trying to deprive persons from making a living. And these persons are from the community. I have said to the community, look, if it's an issue, let us get together, involving the community, and put some pressure on these people. But it's the same community people who are making a living from the scrap that are involved in it. So it is noteworthy that he has pointed out that I have cleaned it before, again with the help of the citizens, and the citizens have allowed and are quite comfortable, and some of them are earning a living from it. And so it poses a quandary for the member of parliament, because once you clean it, the question is how you keep it clear and clean. So it's interesting that it's coming from a developer, and I want to know what I'd want to know from him if he were here is, what is his interest in the development in the area? Does he have a specific interest? Because it would be useful if he came forward with a specific developmental interest, and it's something we can work with and get the place properly developed, rather than it just laying follow. So it really does just seem like a criticism without a focus. And I need to say, I'm available, I'm accessible. You can share my number with him if he wishes to speak to me, but I think it's just baseless.
Mr. Hylton, may I ask you 2 questions?
Sure.
Is the administration trying to relocate a political majority out of Riverton area?
It's possible, but it is possible, but they have not. We have been monitoring the situation, and the crime situation in Riverton, interestingly, is as a result of the development of the scrap metal business that I have brought in the area to help as part of the cleanup exercise, and for them to have an economic base. What has happened is that the problem with Riverton is that it's wide open, so people are coming in from all over the island. The scrap business.
All right, talk about all over the island. Mr. Gordon is the director of the solid waste management, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Did he not propose, or has he done it, giving contract to One Order to help run things in Riverton?
We have no evidence that any One Order is running things in Riverton.
No, One Order is a security group aligned with the JLP, but they are from way over in St. Catherine. And I remember just after he became head of solid waste, that he openly proposed giving a couple sets of people the authority to stop the fire lighting in the dump, and One Order was named without apology.
Yeah, well, I thought I confused that with the gang situation, but there's a security firm. They have security arrangements down there, and that is their, as the managers of the dump, that is their responsibility to put in place appropriate security arrangements. So I'm assuming that whomever he has doing the job, that they are in fact doing the job. The truth is that the number of fires at Riverton has decreased. There's been a recent one, but apart from that, I think generally the fires have not been as frequent as they've been previously. Yeah, but back to the point, though. I mean, I really would wish for Mr. Harris, because that sounds like one of the baseless, aimless criticism that people just make just because they can make it. I'd really like to hear the foundations for that.
Mr. Hylton. Mr. Hylton.
Sure.
The situation with the scrap metal, is it just a problem of location, that it is located where they're carrying on the business is located in a particular section of the community that is a problem? And if that is an issue, have you tried working with those people to try find some other location that they could carry on their business, which does not pose a problem to the rest of the community?
No, I think so. You're talking about the area metal generally? No, but the scrap metal is right across the Riverton community, and that's where it has been before my time and still is. The change situation is that I have formalized it in a way that persons who are from the community can make an economic living, and in fact, they have. So much so that the problem is that those persons who have made quite a bit of money, instead of using to develop themselves and the community, have really gone into buying guns and hence a lot of the criminal activity that has gone on there. And so there's been internal conflict about turfs, and using, quite frankly, just using the money to do foolishness. We have tried to help them with economic financial management. We reached out to them but they're really just, their vision is not any more than what they've known and understand, and yet the scrap metal business has generated quite a bit of money for them, and so that money is misspent.
Hylton, if I can say this, and it's kind of piggybacking on what Lass just asked, and also expanding on it. My takeaway is that there is this area that the scrap metal business is taking place in. Is that the best location for that to happen in terms of not just the economy for the ones in the business, but for the community as well, and taking into account the any environmental issue or anything of the sort, right? Why would it be raised as a problem, as a possible problem?
Well, first of all, the issue I have to raise with you, why is it being raised by Mr. Harris, whomever he is, and he doesn't live in the community? That's the question. Why is he raising it and not the community?
Well, that I couldn't answer, but
that's the question.
But what I'm asking you specifically is because you mentioned that you have worked with them, right? And I want you to expand on that a little, to say that in your working with them, that certain factors were taken into account, the community interests as well as environmental issues, our environmental interests, and so on. That is basically what I'm asking.
Yeah, but that's mostly theoretical, my friend. The fact is that the community, as that was the community as it has been a disorganized trade for a long time.
I get that.
And I have restructured it, formalized it when I was minister, and allowed a trade to develop, a legal trade to develop. The community has benefited from it significantly. What my concern has been, and my argument with them has been, that those who have earned from it and earned significantly, rather than reinvesting in the community in ways that would uplift the community, they have started to get into gun trades and other kinds of things, that the police has now become a part of that in what is a legitimate economic activity from which they are earning significant sums of money. The environmental issues have not been the result of the scrap metal trade. It is those environmental issues have been the result of other disposal system, and the fact that the site itself is a dump and not a proper landfill or anything like that. And that is the reason I have supported the government's effort now to close down what has been a dump and to put in place a proper landfill, sanitary landfill for the area to address the underlying environmental and health issues.
Okay,
but that's not from the scrap metal trade per se.
No, I'm not saying it's from the. I'm just saying that you just gave me the answer, but that's the answer I was really seeking.
Rattigan?
Yes. Mr. Hylton, how are you? Good evening, sir.
Yes, Rattigan. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I have two questions for you. And rather than just bombard you with both of them at the same time, let me just ask you one and wait for your response, and then I'll ask you the second one. First one is that you said that you have restructured and formalized this trade, and now it's a legal trade, and it's benefiting the community. Now, your community, that's their community, but your community is not only Riverton, it's Waterhouse, no, the gardens. What name?
Portville Garden.
Portville Garden, Seaview Garden, Doing the Park, Plantation Heights.
Washington Gardens. Right.
Washington Gardens,
Right.
yes.
So and you mentioned, or you alluded to the fact that there is a certain amount of violence going on over there because of turfs. Now, you are responsible for this entire constituency. If someone were to say from another area, say, look, it's an open market and we believe in competition, I want to go over there and engage in the trade as well, would that be a viable option for that person?
There's no formal barriers to preclude them from doing so.
So there would be no violent attack or no threats or nothing against a person like that.
The person would have to bring that particular situation to me. I can't say they won't have issues in just going in. But the first thing is what they'd have to do is acquire a space, some kind of land area to carry on their business. So presumably if they went to the Ministry of Housing or any of the other land owning agencies and they were to get that land, they can do so. It is happening right now where a part of the land has been acquired to develop warehouses in the community.
All right, I'll accept that answer. The second question is this, and it's a deviation from the topic we're on, and I beg the host's indulgence in my doing so. But this is a topic that's near and dear to all Jamaicans, or should be. This is not, it's not confined to an area. It has to do with the Constitution. Now, you are a member of that Constitutional Reform Committee. And
I am.
The more we hear in these town hall meetings, the more we hear explanation of the development, right, of this new constitution to form a republic, the more, at least the feedback I'm getting from people, the less convinced that they are that this committee knows what it's doing. For example, and I submit to you, the co-chair, the Minister Malahoo Ford, she was asked at a town hall, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but I'll just say it for the benefit of the viewers who haven't seen it or haven't heard about it. She was asked about the role and responsibility of this new president, and she couldn't answer. And I've seen various clips of her responding to questions from constituents. And I have to be frank with you, I am not impressed. In fact, I'm depressed when I listen to her response. Now, you're a member of that community, of that committee. Can you give us today an update, a status report, if you will, about where that committee is, what it's doing, what it intends to do, and hopefully when will the report be produced?
Well, first of all, let me contextualize my remarks by saying this is the government of Jamaica, the current government's set up arrangement for the committee. The opposition participates in it for several reasons. One, the opposition has been the single most insistent body on constitutional reform consistently over since the 1970s onwards. So that's a preoccupation of the opposition. The particular arrangement of having this constitutional reform, if this were being done by the opposition, it probably would have been done quite differently. However, it's one government at a time. The government of the day has decided it wants to embark on a review of the 1995 Joint Select Committee's recommendation, which was came out of a process that the opposition set up when it was in government at the time. And it produced a series of recommendations for reform in the Constitution. The government decided to set up this Constitutional Reform Committee. It invited the opposition to participate in it. The opposition leader, if you recall at the outset, had his concerns and stated that, and it took a while and some discussion for him to name the two members, which are myself and member Donna Scott Motley. Our role on the committee is to ensure is not to sabotage the committee. The government has its objective. We are there to ensure that it take on board some of the fundamental concerns that we have as opposition in that process. And we have stated what some of those fundamental concerns are. One, we believe that you cannot decolonize to address the sovereignty situation without the court, the Privy Council being not being the apex court or the final appellate court for Jamaica, but that we believe the Caribbean Court of Justice is most appropriate to carry out that function. On the question of the presidency and the role of the presidency, that is a matter that is being much debated. I will say to you, I know the clip of which you speak, and I know the event at which that occurred. And in a sense, what the co-chair was signaling and saying is that she didn't come to the meeting with a settled view about the role of the presidency, because I find it interesting that the committee is criticized for not having a view, and it is criticized for having a view. Considering that the committee's role is recommendation only, first to the cabinet and for the cabinet to make a decision and then decide on the shape of the legislation to come to Parliament. Now, it is equally the case, Rattigan, and I'll tell you this, that it is quite open for members of the public to offer their views about how they see the presidency and how that should operate. The committee, as with expert guidance and with the benefit of research, has looked at the matter, and have a view on the matter, but have decided that it really is a matter that they want to hear the country, the diaspora, everyone, to express a view on it before the committee then takes all of that on board and then makes its recommendation. So on the one hand, it's being criticized for not putting forward a set of developed ideas, and on the other hand, it is saying that it shouldn't, and it's for the people it should have go out and listen to the people. So there are conflicting views about it, but what I can say is that I'll say to you that I am very clear in the view that the committee is a very competent committee and will deliver on the task and the task and objective that is given to it.
All right, let me ask one question. I'm opening the door for Bongo Jerry. I see him itching to ask you questions. But Bongo Jerry, give me one quick second.
I got a couple questions too.
Yeah, let me ask you one question. I hear you, MP, and I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
The committee is not perfect. No organization is perfect.
Sure.
Given that you're on this committee and you're witnessing everything that's going on, what is your criticism of the committee as it is in its present form and function?
No, first of all, we have said, and the minutes are being made available, and I urge everyone to read the minutes of those meetings, because you'll see very clearly the position that the opposition has taken inside the committee itself. And all criticism from the very beginning is that this process should have included and must the work of this committee need to be supported by a very strong educational program. And at the beginning, we thought that that deeper consultation should have been set out from the very beginning. All of that, it is because of the internal pressure as well as external pressures that have caused the government, who leads the committee, to understand that the country wants and deserves a deep consultation supported by an educational program. So those are some of the specific observations that we have made, and that has caused the committee to begin to adjust its work. So we have done our work, and the minutes will be out. And I'd urge every one of you to get a hold of the minutes that are posted on the websites, and get it and read it, and you'll see the work of the people inside the community, inside the committee, including myself.
What is that website?
It's at the constitutional, the Ministry of Constitutional Reform on that website. I don't have the address, but we can get you the address. It's the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Reform Committee.
All right, if you can get me the address, that would be good. Yeah.
I have two questions for you. One, recall. Will that be a feature in the new constitution? And second, proportional representation. Will that also, is there a discussion around both topics?
Yes.
Right to recall the politician and proportional representation.
The issue has been raised and is being discussed. Yes,
Which
both
one?
issues.
Both
Both,
issues.
not one, both.
Okay, that's good.
Mm.
Jerry,
Yeah,
you have any question for the MP?
yeah, Mr. Hylton, do you understand that the committee has a duty to illuminate the public awareness of the wool that was pulled over the population's eyes from 1962?
Well, I mentioned before that at the very outset, and I hope it is one and the same thing we're talking about. I've said one of our principal concern in the beginning, from the time we entered the opposition, that is, entered into this discussion, is that a proper educational program about the Constitution, its historical context, and its operation, all of that, we believe, has to be a forerunner before we have decisions coming out of the committee itself, as well as the deeper consultation.
Where does historical context admit that wool was pulled over the Jamaican population eyes, and that the leader of the government at the time, the local government, the Jamaica government was just a local government, the leader of the government at the time and the leader of the opposition were the capable advice of people like Ashenheim. Bustamante was not in any disadvantaged position. Bustamante had some very competent advisors like Ashenheim and others. Are you aware that the historical context involves explaining how the wool was pulled over the eyes of the people?
Jerry, that's a conclusion. You're talking to a lawyer. Rattigan will tell you those remarks are conclusory. What do you mean by pull a wool over your eye? What do you mean by that?
I was 14 years old at the time and very aware of what was happening. I don't know if you are 14 years younger than me. I doubt it.
No, man, he's a younger man too, man. Much no,
yes,
younger.
I was only 14, but I was very much aware of the whole thing. And many other people in my age group were aware. Many people older than them 20s were aware, and many adults were aware that the leader of the government, Norman Manley, especially having been defeated in the referendum, which many of the members of his party were disappointed at him making available. You're aware that many members of the PNP, many senior members of the PNP were disappointed at Norman Manley making a referendum available to the people of Jamaica in 1961?
Yes, Jerry, but get to the point, man. Get to the point.
Okay,
What did this wool over the eyes? I'm just asking to define what is this wool.
That is the thing that I have to share with my Jamaican people all the while. That many people, including senior members of the PNP, have not the slightest idea about some of the issues in the history of the PNP. Like, for instance, the fact that in 1942, the British made a deal with Bustamante, a foundation member of the PNP, to leave the PNP if they release him from detention and to denounce the PNP as communist. Are you aware of that?
I've heard the discussion, yes.
I don't want to know if you heard the discussion. I want to know if you're aware about the facts, those facts.
No, I'm saying, if you know it as a fact, then you can stipulate what those facts are. I said I've heard the discussion.
No, people.
Just a minute, Jerry, just a minute. Mr. Hylton, can you sit back so we can see your face? Yes, that's much better. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, no, when you have senior and well-educated and intelligent members of the political culture who are not aware of most of the political history of party politics in Jamaica, can you imagine the disadvantage at which their people and their constituents are? No,
wait, come on, whoa, hold on, Jerry, hold on. Hear me now. You're talking about somebody different here, Jerry. Those kind of bootstrapping argument and innuendo, that's not going to work with me. That's not going to work with me. What you mean?
Come on, man. Come on. History. Look here. the political history of the party politics in Jamaica, even most members, senior members of the JLP and PNP are not familiar and aware of it.
But my brethren, you have me on the program, and when you start making, you ask me one question, I gave you a response to the question, and then that gives you license to make some overbroad statement. I'm not going to put up with that.
Don't put up with it, okay? All right,
no, it's
I
not
will
the
withdraw.
foolishness.
Yes, I will withdraw from the conversation. I will
No,
pause.
well, that's up to you, but you will not be alone
Okay,
with
okay,
me.
done with me. Done with me. Forget about
You
me.
will, no, but I
Forget
can't allow
about
you.
me.
I can't allow you to come and make this thing, man. You have
Forget
your
about me.
your
I'm
own
no
program.
longer there. I'm no
Yeah,
longer
man,
there.
go on and
I'm no longer
propagate
there.
what go ahead and propagate what you want to propagate wherever.
And in
But you can't have me.
1952, 10 years later, in 1952, 10 years later, the PNP, not the entire PNP, but the PNP made a deal similar to the 42 agreement that Bustamante made with Britain. The PNP made a deal with the United States.
Brethren, if you have those facts, you display them. Not just you display your facts, but you don't have me and tell me what is facts and what is your facts, and then say we don't know nothing.
I know you weren't taught this. None of us were taught these things in school.
Well,
None of us were taught these things.
That's why I'm saying clarify what you mean pull wool over eyes, because that could mean
all
a whole
right, and
different thing.
this is why the committee as constituted, especially with Rocky Mead as the co-chair, will not appreciate what their duties are to the people of Jamaica.
That's your view, and I respect that. That's your view, and I respect that.
All right, I withdraw from the interview with you. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable.
No, sir. No, I'm not uncomfortable. I just have to correct you from some overstatement.
Forget about me. Forget about me.
Yeah.
Any more question for Mr. Rattigan, Mr. Hylton?
I know you call me.
Yeah, Rattigan. Mr. Hylton. But
No, I have a question.
I've asked my question, but Mr. Hylton, of course, you get the information to me about the website.
No, man, but Rattigan can give you that, man. Rattigan has that.
No, so Hylton, the man ask you why you.
No. It's simple. I'm just saying it's something on the website we can find, but I'm just saying it's something that is public. I mean, if I get it on WhatsApp,
can you just send it to me?
No, I'll get it on WhatsApp it to you.
Yes, that's all I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I have another question. Mr. Hylton, you have occupied many positions in government. One of them being Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
Yeah.
Are you aware of Circular 17 and the Financial Administrative Act? Those provisions in those two documents requiring that government officials file for gifts received from any source, whether it's gifts of cash or in kind. Are you aware of those regulations?
I am, and I follow them.
You follow them? Okay.
I am, and I follow them, yeah.
Now, was it also, and I don't want this to seem like an insurrection, I'm just asking you because you occupied that position, and I'm engaged with people occupying those positions. Was there any training ever given to people to say, hey, listen, this is what? Well, no. Let me take a step back. How did you find out about those regulations?
No, I mean, you're advised by. I was advised by the permanent secretary of the time when I first came into the ministry, which was about 1993 or 4. As a junior minister, I was given a briefing book and stuff, and that was part of the briefing.
And would you say that's standard procedure for any incoming minister?
I would hope so. I cannot speak for anyone else what has happened before, but I would imagine that is the case.
All right. Let me ask you something that you can speak on. The people of the Western Sahara. It's my understanding that since 1976, Jamaica has supported their right to autonomy from the people of Morocco. Are you aware of that situation?
Yeah, we supported the Polisario. Yes.
All right. Based on your experience and knowledge and understanding of the issue, do you have any knowledge as to why this Jamaican government decided not to do so?
No, I don't know the specific of that. They've changed many of the policy position and stances that we have the Jamaican government have supported over the years. And so this is just another one of them that they've changed.
Okay. As far as the upcoming election is concerned, and we know we're going to have one by the latest 2 years from now, 2025. Give us your strongest argument as to why you should be reelected.
As to why I should be reelected?
Yes, if you're going to run.
Well, I outlined a vision when I came into Waterhouse, into the constituency, and that vision is being pursued even as we speak. And we have had some successes. Some of it is yet to unfold, and others are in front of us. But I believe we have discharged our responsibility in that regard, and the vision is very clear, and where we're going with the constituency.
Okay, now you've been there 14 years, and you based on what you just said, when you came in with a vision.
Yeah.
Now that vision, 14 years ago, fast forward to today, how much of that vision has been realized in the community, and what is remaining to be done?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, the part of the vision first is to address the infrastructure, the social needs of the community, some of the housing, some of it, and by infrastructure, we have the housing infrastructure needs, the business environment in the constituency as a whole, and the education and general upliftment of the community. We have done quite a bit to achieve a level of education and training for a number of our youths in the community. We have a range of them who have gone on to tertiary, secondary, tertiary education, and fulfilling their role and promise as productive citizens, not just in the community, but in the society at large. We have, in the area of development, we have put in place critical infrastructure. So, for example, because of the housing situation in say Waterhouse, for example, if you're going to expand the housing situation or the general development, one of the things you have to do is to put in place the sewage, to have a sewage system in the community that was non-existent or very limited when we got there. That has been done, so that allows for us now to be talking about expanding into housing in the Penwood area. That is really the only area for any new housing development in Waterhouse. And without that infrastructure, that sewage infrastructure, you can't expand the housing development. So we had to put the sewage scheme in place first, and that now allows us to be talking about expanding the housing situation. As I said, education is an area that we believe we have done well. We put in place a training facility, a first class training facility. We have now to complete we've done some of it. We have the music studio that we want to put in place. But generally, and this is in a situation where it's only 4 years out of that period that we were in government. The other time is in opposition. And when you're in opposition in Jamaica, as you know, you don't get to determine the pace of change nor the resources that are needed to do the kind of development that you want. The government of the day makes the decision, as they've done this period, by saying that they're going to focus on the new members of parliament rather than across the board help in the development of the infrastructure of constituents like roads, drains, and that sort of thing. So we believe we've done, and the vision is very clear. As you can see, the logistics, which is the mainstay of what I believe is the vision, but for Jamaica and for that community, is now taking hold, and we're attracting the level of investment that we need in the community, both in terms of Seaview and Riverton, which is where I thought we were going to go today when I saw in the chat that this was about Riverton and Seaview. So the investments have been tracked. We're getting a new investment in the area and along Spanish Town Road that includes and will benefit Waterhouse and all the adjoining communities.
Mr. Hylton.
Let me just finish. I just have one question there. One comment and one question. One is, I've heard you consistently talk about the training center, the world-class training center in Waterhouse, and that's commendable. But the one thing I haven't heard you speak to in a forceful way, jobs. You train people, but I don't hear you talk much about employment of those trainees. That's just a statement. That's not a question. The question I have for you is this: the last time we met on this platform, it came to light based on information provided by the Electoral Commission to me that you lost in Seaview and you lost in Doheny Park, and that you were carried over past you went past the finishing line because of Washington Gardens and Waterhouse. And the question I have is, what have you, because you're only one person and it's a very diverse constituency, and I was afraid when this came to light that you may have decided to spend time in those areas at the expense of the people in Waterhouse and Doheny Park, and Waterhouse and Washington Gardens. How have you managed to and this is just a question trying to find out what have you done in terms of shoring up votes in those communities that didn't vote for you the last time, or that you didn't win the last go around?
Mr. Hylton, if I could just, before you answer that question, because my question is kind of along the same lines, because I want to ask you, what's the challenge of dealing with a constituency like yours with such a wide variation in the socio-economic situation affecting the people? You know, what's the challenges?
Well, I mean, the challenges are many. One of them is just simply the resource to do that. And by resource, I mean, when you're talking about things like drainage and roads, those are traditionally not resources that you mobilize the private sector to deal with, but those are resources that come from the government. And I've made a point that the government has its priorities. We continue to argue them. They've shifted policies. So, for example, in my constituency, where there are roads and road infrastructure is a continuing challenge. We have assessed that we have over 200 roads that needs attention. And right now, you cannot count on getting in any one budget year. You can't in the current system as it's being operated. You can't count on getting any from the budget in any 1 year. We used to have a system where you could count on getting 2 or 3 each year. That was woefully lacking, but at least you could count on 2 or 3, and then you have to make some critical choices and decisions as to where you expend those resources. Under this administration, it's a catch-as-catch-can situation because they shift the policies, including most recently when they said the older members of parliament that other than the new one will not be the focus. So they focus on the new members of parliament. And why did they do that? Because they have the majority of the new MPs coming in. So, you know, you make a hue and cry and you argue against that, but it's one government and they make their policies on the day. So the challenges are significant. Training, and let me say something about jobs, Rattigan.
Yeah.
What we have is Waterhouse is situated in one of the most significant industrial belts in Kingston and by extension in Jamaica. And what we've had to do, and this is why I've said I've focused mainly on education and training, because when you speak to them, the business people in those areas, their constant refrain is, if they're trained and they meet the standards, we will employ them. And so we've had to focus on that, and there have been significant take-up in that. There have been some employment, but by and large, the education system, as you know, which produces a variety of persons that come out of school with more than 2 or 3 CXCs. Makes it very challenging. And so what we've had to do is to put in place special heart training program, of which Waterhouse has benefited from. So when you said, but you're training, but you're not giving them that, the MP doesn't give jobs. The MP doesn't have jobs to give. The MP's principal role is to make sure that he focuses on the training and prepare the constituents and the students so that they are prepared and can access the work that is there. We help where we can, and we have from time to time, we have specific arrangement with manpower and other things that people get employed. But the MP is not an employer first resort.
No, the reason why
Which brings me to my question.
Yeah.
You made news last week with the remarks about the job description. Can you elaborate some more on that as to the job description for the MP? You said it cannot be.
Before you answer that question, because what I have to ask is kind of tied in with that, right? Mr. Hylton, I mean, a lot of what you said, I mean, I'm not hearing it for the first time. You have, we have discussed this before, and I've heard you go through it quite a few times. But I was hoping you would tell us, right? Because Ratty never posed it as a question, but I was gonna pose it more directly as a question. I remember, like with what you had outlined in terms of the job training and so on, it would have been good if you had followed up on that or had a system of following up on that to see how much of your graduates, right, were able to be gainfully employed. I know that it was done in conjunction with some private businessmen and so on, like Zuki and so on. But if you could have elaborated on that aspect in terms of how much of the trainees have actually gained employment since then. And that's one part. And then the other part being what's happening with the program now. I remember you had said that, funds are dried up and all of that. And, you were exploring other funding and all of that, right? If you could speak more to that. And also in terms of that development that you had outlined a while back about down Seaview and all of that. What's happening with that? If you can give us an idea as to what's happening with stuff like that. And then one other big piece, which was discussed last week too, right? And if you can speak to that as well, which is about your organization in the community, because you as a one-man can't really, function as effectively as you would want to, right? And I know you had mentioned, problems around that area too in terms of organization. Has anything improved there? Or
just a minute. So just a minute. Mr. Hylton, with my question, those are 4 questions. 4 questions to you. I don't know you can manage.
I'll try.
There are 4 questions on the table.
I'll try.
Go ahead.
Firstly, let me respond to the Seaview and the training. What the positive development there is that I have been pressing for quite some time to have what we've called workforce training colleges developed in Jamaica broadly, but more specifically to have one built in the Seaview area. I am pleased to say that, and that is with Hard Trust NTA. I'm pleased to say that after some follow-up discussion that took place last month, in May actually, that the board, the Art NTA board, has finally accepted that that is a project that should be implemented, and has given instruction that that project commences. So I'm very pleased to say that finally, after about 8-year representation, that finally will happen. And I think it will make a significant difference, not only to the trainees, but to the investment community, because it is one of the concerns that the investor community have, that they needed to see a focused training in the area of logistics and supply chain management. And we've just now agreed to embark on the Workforce College, and in addition to that, to transform the Edith Dalton James High School, which is the only high school we have in Western St. Andrew, to transform that high school into a technical, a TVET institution that focuses again on supply chain management and logistic training. So I think those two things bode well for the community and for the opportunity that I believe is a priority opportunity for the area, which is now to address the infrastructure for logistics development in and around the Spanish Town Road Belt. So that I can report good news there, and I'm very excited about it because it has taken me nearly 10 years for Hard Trust to finally wrap its hands around it and decide that that is a priority matter for implementation. The other matter of infrastructure and organization, it was at two levels. It was at the level, firstly, of the political organization and at the level of the wider community. And I believe we have discussed it in those same ways. On the political front and the organization, I believe there's a reasonably good organization in Waterhouse. Last Sunday, when I was invited on the program, I indicated that there was a conflict because I was around about the same time we were having a meeting in the community on the divisional organizational level. And
what was the turnout like? What was the turnout like?
Fairly good, very good, very good. And you would have gotten your independent report, Michael, I'm sure. So it's very good. On the wider community, that's an ongoing effort to see how best. And I'd agree that one of the things that would be helpful is to have some kind of communication strategy that affects not just Waterhouse but the entire constituency. That still remains a work in progress. Michael had put forward some suggestion. I have not heard any follow-up on that. But in the meantime, what we're doing is really to go work the traditional ways, which is to have meetings from community to community, have those community discussions, and we continue to do that.
The job description.
Yeah, well, job description, as I responded to you, that was just as usual. And one of the hazards in political representation is what happens from time to time with the news media, who just simply mischaracterizes what it says, and it's something I'm used to. So, when that happened, I responded. I reacted to it immediately and said, look, that's a mischaracterization of what I said, which is I was describing to a group of foreigners, people who were asking the question about, because they just didn't know how does representation work, and they were asking some particular question. So I was giving specific response to a specific set of questions that was asked. The news media person who was in the audience, she just assumed I was talking about job description. And I wasn't. I wasn't addressing what was before the parliament. I was just simply saying what is. And as you know, I reacted not only to my group of the people who I communicate with on a daily basis over WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, but I also wrote to the editor and to say, look, your newspaper article get it wrong, because I was making no comment, no observation. And in the job description, which, as I've said, my position clearly is difficult and challenges as it is, but I think it's necessary that be done. And whatever we're able to come up with and however we're able to define it, it will be an improvement on what exists currently. So that's my position, and I've stated that very clearly on this program and on any other platform.
Mr. Hylton.
If I may, I want to ask one final question.
Sure.
The police issue a report that there's a decline in major crimes in Jamaica. And I've not heard anything from the People's National Party as to what they think about it. What is the party position on this report, this police report? Have you seen the report?
No, I have not seen it. I have not seen it personally. I've heard about the report. I've heard about the conclusions of the report.
And what is party position on?
I can't speak to it at this time, but I'm sure there is a position. I'll find that out and I can let you know.
All right. Please, Mr. MP, don't leave, because listen, the questions are flying into my phone here. Plus, I have some.
No, Mike, no. Rattigan,
I had one question to.
Rattigan,
yes, sir.
let me remind. I said from last week when I was invited, I said I'll come on. I have an hour because I have a function that I've committed to going. Now I can stay some few minutes over, but I can't stay and leave the people that
I'll make you an offer. Here's what I'll do. I don't believe in surprising people with issues. What I'll do is I won't ask any questions. I'll just list them, and I'm going to invite you on my program next week Saturday or the week after at your convenience. And then you already have the issues that some of the issues that we're gonna talk about. Let me just show you two things. Yesterday on my program, I did a piece on Clarks, right? This is one of them that I used to tee from Wally Dread for Wego Meadowbrook. And this is one that the bad man them used to wear. And I did this piece to show the political strategy of the Prime Minister. Now, you were seen wearing a pair of Clarks last night, a orange one. But we won't go further on that. But here is, I think you know where I'm going with it. But here are some of the issues.
I saw that.
Here are some of the issues. Here are some of the issues. I want to talk to you. When you decide to come on, I want to talk to you about the salary increase, right? I want to talk to you about the signing of the code of conduct. I want to talk to you about the document that was used as the basis for the salary that's still in a draft stage, right? I want to follow up with you on the refrain that you mentioned that the business community said that people are not trained, all right? And I want to find out if you followed up with those business entities and provided them with names and numbers of those folks. Also, I want to find out with you is what are the community's needs, and how can we participate in assisting you in addressing those issues? And
all right, I will. I look forward to it, and I'll come on as early as possible. Next week, Saturday, I'll make the time and come on.
Next week, Saturday?
Yes, I'll make the time and come
on.
The
one thing I need to ask you before you go is, are there any subjects that you do not want to discuss?
No, man, I'm no holds barred. I discuss any and every subject.
Thank you very much, sir, because I have a bunch of listeners listening to you, and you just made a commitment to come on. Next week, Saturday, at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock your time. I'll send you the link. All right?
Hold on, Mr. Hylton. Jerry, you have anything to say? Questions?
To who?
Mr. Hylton, the panel, everybody.
No, I want to maintain good relations, so no further question.
Last other question.
Yes, I just wanted to go back, Mr. Hylton, in terms of the Constituency Development Fund. What other resources do you have as a member of Parliament, to carry on some of the projects? And how far can the Constituency Development Fund go with a constituency like yours?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And if we can agree that, I think it's a good note to end on in terms of the time that is available. I would just say a few things on that. Firstly, I think I want to clarify for you, for members of the panel and your listenership, that the Constituency Development Fund is really, quite frankly, it really is, I believe it is more than, I sometimes wonder whether it's worth it.
Can you sit back so we see your face? Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if it's really worth it, because what happens now is they talk a 20 million program, and it's not given to the members of Parliament. And there's a lot of misunderstanding that we have to keep explaining. It's not monies given to the members of Parliament. It is a program that is set up with the government ministries and agencies. The members of Parliament are told that they can make certain recommendations within certain constraints that are provided. So when you, at the end of the budget, when you're being advised of the availability of this $20 million, it comes with a number of conditions, so that you may not be, you're not able to spend, as the member of Parliament would design a program for the constituency. It's really just a standard set of expenditures across all constituencies, so that to deal with the constituencies of Western St. Andrew. You really don't have a program that just deals specifically with that, with the challenges of that constituency. You're being told, for example, that only 4 million, this is just by way of example, only 4 million can be spent on anything to do with education, 2 million can be spent on drain, 3 million, and so forth and so forth. So you're given the scope of your expenditure out of that 20 million. And so you end up just really being constrained by a lot of different things. So you can design a program for the constituency and then allocate the resources as it's needed and the priorities as recommend themselves. So for me, it remains that this very unsatisfactory kind of program. I would prefer if we had fixed our bureaucracy and that there are no need for any specific allowance, but that we can design the solution for the constituency, and the overall budget takes that into account and make those resources available. That's not the way it works currently. And so that is a challenge and a continuing challenge, not just for Western St. Andrew, but I would submit all constituencies.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I want Mr. Hylton, thank you for spending time with us on this Sunday evening. Next week you'll be with Mr. Rattigan.
Yes.
I hope you enjoy it just as we enjoy your presence here.
Yeah, man. I always do. Always do, Rattigan. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
All right.
All
Any
right.
last word? Any final word?
No, I just encourage the group to keep doing this work and keeping our people informed. And from time to time, I'll be happy to come on the program as I'm available to discuss any issue.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Thanks.
Rattigan.
All right.
That's up.
All right, take care.
Yes.
All
Respect.
right.
Respect.
So I want to thank, we have 300 folks online listening to us, and they spend the entire 2 hours. So that's wonderful. And I think probably because Jerry and Mr. Hylton decided to join us. So I hope they will keep on coming back to the roundhouse, Gentlemen, again, thank you very much. A very informative discussion, and I hope you enjoy it. And until next week, Sunday, as I'm saying in Jamaica, walk good.
That's up.
All right.
Tell them one out it.
All right.
Yeah, tell everyone about it.
Tell everybody hold it to everyone. All right? Be
Cool,
good, my
man.
brother.
All right, thank you.
Take
Yeah.
care.
All right. Bless up. Bless up.